It is that time of year once again. WrestleMania has come and gone, and as some of you might know, the cutoff date for the 2K series is usually around WrestleMania weekend. So it is time to have some expectations and predictions for WWE 2K19. I did a similar video last year. People seem to enjoy it mostly, so I figured, alright, why not come back and do one more for this year's game? Now, I'm not going to get into my usual laundry list of complaints that I have with this game series just about every year, things that I expect to be in here, like the animation bugs and glitches. Go watch some New Legacy. They are abundant, and we're kind of stuck with them, right? Push that stuff aside. In terms of what they need to fix from last year to this year, first and foremost, the parental controls glitch. Like, that never should have happened. The fact that it's still in there is insane, and it damn sure better not be in 2K19. Also, the community creations texture glitch. Like, I did so much less this year with community creations, because most of them I went and downloaded, they were missing textures. It made them just completely useless. I have no idea how that was ever a problem until this year, but all of a sudden now it's a problem. And some stuff like the invisible turnbuckle glitch, etc., etc. There are things that definitely, hopefully, will get addressed in this year's game. Now, one thing that didn't really affect me this year was the 8-man matches being slow, because I have a PS4 Pro, I have Xbox One X, so not that big of a deal, but I would hope, given that they have had a year from putting those in, that hopefully those matches should run better on the standard PS4 and the standard Xbox One. We'll see. But that's last year's stuff, right? So let's get into what I would hope and predict and expect to be in this year's game. Number one, top of the list, tippy top of the list is the Women's Royal Rumble. Honestly, I feel like that could have been patched into 2K18 and they just didn't want to do it to have something else on the back of the box for 2K19. But that's an easy one. You can already have women in the chamber, in tables, in ladders, in chairs, so Royal Rumble is not that hard of a thing to do, I would imagine. But speaking of Royal Rumbles, right, you can have the women having their own 30. What about the 50? What about the greatest Royal Rumble? I can't imagine it would be that much extra work to go from 30 to 50. But hey, we'll see. There were some minor visual upgrades in this year's Elimination Chamber, like extra LEDs on that thing. It looked a little bit different this year, and I would hope that would also be updated for the game. Now, one thing I've been harping on for a while has been the lack of a proper Fatal 5-Way. Think about how many actual real-life Fatal 5-Ways have happened in the past, say, 2 years as, like, main events. And the game, while it can do 4, it can do 6, it can do 8, it can't do 5. Now, I'm not as insistent on having a 7-man, because, I mean, while you could certainly create some historic Money in the Bank matches, I think there have been so many Fatal 5-Ways that it stands to reason, how come you can have 4, how come you can have 6, but you can't have 5? That seems weird. You can have 3, so they can clearly do odd numbers, but why not 5? Maybe this year, come on 2K, it's not that hard. Now there are, obviously, always more match types that you could add, right? So, hopefully, they'll get more match types in there, hopefully more variations on the match types we already have. Like, say, what if you wanted to do a 4 tag team match? So 2, 2, 2, 2, you got 8 men there, and then have 4 tag teams, 1 team on each corner. Like, why isn't that in there? Why couldn't that be in there? But let's take a moment to discuss authenticity. Because every year, it's, this game is the most authentic, the most realistic, the most true-to-life game we've ever made, ever. And I'm like, alright, cool. So, is this game gonna have pyro? And I know that's a little bit controversial, right? I'm saying, hey, at every show except for WrestleMania, these superstars should not have pyro, because that's not realistic. That does not happen in real life anymore. And if you want to be the most realistic, then those superstars, like say Brock Lesnar, AJ Styles, should only have pyro if you were in the WrestleMania arena. And I feel like most folks would not agree with me on that one. But you want it authentic, right? That's authentic. But I feel like that really speaks to, is 2K actually going to update everyone's entrance this year, or just reuse a bunch of ones from last year, the year before, the year before. Anyway, moving on to the cover. Who's going to be on the cover this year? Will it finally be the big dog, Roman Reigns? Will they finally go with a woman, by herself on the cover? Could it be Ronda Rousey? Could we have my mock-up here of both Roman Reigns and Ronda Rousey? Could we see the return of a dual or even tri or four-way cover from these superstars? They've been spending so long on the individual superstar cover, I feel like it is high time for the return of a dual or triple cover. If you wanted to go with one of the female superstars, and if you wanted to have a singular cover, I think the option here has to be Charlotte. They are certainly banking a lot of the future of the women's division on her. She broke Asuka's streak, so that is a perfect opportunity to have her on the cover of the game. But that's just the regular cover, right? So what about your usual special edition? Last year was the 15 years of John Cena. I've been saying for a couple years, if Taker actually manages to retire, you could have a cool Taker one. I know it was done a couple years back, but it's been a while, right? You can do it again. And I've also been saying for a few years that, hey, why don't you spotlight the women's revolution as your special edition? That could be cool. But once you get past the cover, you start thinking about the DLC. And that was certainly a bit of a sore spot last year. Go watch my Season Pass video. They botched that thing pretty hard by charging us the same money for less content. And your cheat codes do not count as content. That being said, looking at your post-WrestleMania call-ups, obviously, Bobby Lashley is going to be DLC. If last year, the Hardy Boys debuted at Mania and they were DLC, then for sure, Bobby Lashley, DLC. Now, is Lashley going to be a big enough deal in the next couple of months to be considered as a pre-order bonus? It's possible. I think in terms of your Future Stars pack they do every year, that one is pretty easy. It'd be Ricochet, EC3, War Raiders, and Kairi Sane. Bing, bang, boom, done. That would be a great pack, and people would be really hyped for that, right? In terms of your Hall of Fame pack, I mean, it was Goldberg, Dudley's, Double J, Mark Henry, Hillbilly Jim, and Ivory. And of those, who hasn't been in the game in a while? Jim, but really, Double J. Give us the iconic Double J with the guitar you can hit him with and call him Slapnuts. It'd be great. On that note, smashable guitar props. We have Elias, we have Double J. That is essential. Now back to the pre-order bonus they do every year. If they really wanted to be hard asses about it, they could make that pre-order bonus Ronda Rousey. Now I think she should obviously be on that main roster, but they could do that. And I know, like every year, it's going to be the largest roster ever, right? But personally, I'd say maybe trim it down a little bit and then polish the game more. I would love that. But most specifically, is Almas going to be in the game this year? Because last year, he was not. And in the past 12 months, he has been the NXT champion. And I know that every superstar has to sign their likeness rights to be in the game. And the rumor was that last year, he refused. I think having gotten the push he's gotten in the past year, he should definitely be in the game this year. Come on. Now, moving on to the modes. My career mode. That perennial favorite. One of the most important things I do every fall is that my career mode. In last year's, there was a few things I liked and a lot of things I felt they could have done better. Got a whole video, go watch that video. I broke down that whole thing. But long story short, I like the fact that it was obviously more compact and not, this big, long, grindy slog that's no good. But they have so many pieces in there that if you put the pieces in the right place, you can make a really good pizza. But they just kind of didn't. So hopefully this year, if you're still walking around backstage and you walk into superstars and talk to them, they actually sound like the superstar you're talking to and not just generic dialogue. But honestly, backstage free roam was so pointless. Just so entirely pointless. And I keep saying it every year. Just copy what they did in Here Comes the Pain. Because Shut Your Mouth had backstage free roam, and that was also just kind of a slog and kind of boring, right? Things really didn't really happen. And in 18, things kind of really didn't happen. Most of the superstars had nothing of any value to tell you. Whereas Here Comes the Pain gave you a list of locations, and you could see who was there, who wasn't there, and usually you went and talked to them, and something cool would happen. Either a fight, would build to a match, something. So seriously, just do that. Universe mode, I don't really play all that much, so hopefully it's better for you guys. I would certainly support the return of a proper GM mode. That'd be nice. I would certainly love the return of the create a story mode. That'd be great. Again, you have the pieces in place to make this happen, so why don't you make it happen? You told us a couple of years ago you were going to cut out the showcases to make the rest of the game better, and the rest of the game really wasn't that much better. Now, I've been thinking, right, what could the hook of this year's game be? What is going to be the big selling point on the box? Last year was the 8-man matches, so what is this year's back of the box selling point? And I think if you have enough women to do a women's Royal Rumble, then that means you should also have enough women to do a women's My Career. This is the year. They have spent so much time in the past 2 years building the women's revolution. It is time for a women's My Career. Make it happen. And really, that leaves us with 2 more points of discussion in this video. Number 1, will there be microtransactions in loot boxes? Last year had loot boxes only in the My Career, but they were not tied to actually spending real money. Will they pull that trigger this year, and how bad would the backlash be if they did? Personally, if it's in there in any permutation, in any form, you aren't getting one damn dime from me. One would hope that 2K is paying attention to the broader conversation around loot boxes and microtransactions and what happened to Star Wars and people trying to get laws passed now and that kind of stuff. Like, read the room, 2K. Don't do that shit. And of course, the final thing, the final huge question mark, is will there be a version of 2K19 on the Nintendo Switch? That, my friends, is the 900-pound gorilla in the room. Because perhaps you haven't noticed, but that version of 2K18 on the Switch is still really broken. And honestly, it is more broken now than when it launched, because Switch updated their firmware, and that makes the game worse. It crashes more now. So how can they, in any good conscience, without having fixed the game they already sold you, try and sell you another game next year? How can you possibly trust them to even do that? In any event, if they do make one, I'll be sure to put it in my GameFly and rent it, because I'm sure as hell not gonna buy it. But it's only April, so as usual, we won't get our first drip feed of information on 2K19 until at least SummerSlam. And until then, who knows? But as always, I am your host, Attack Slug. Every day, there are more videos on this channel, 5 p.m. wrestling videos every day. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time, and I'm out.